The large meeting room on the Galactic Alliance flagship Luminous buzzed with activity. Representatives from 17 alien species argued in their native languages, while translation devices worked overtime. In the far corner of the room, almost hidden by a large support column, stood Alan Gray. Alan was a human of average height with brown hair and unremarkable features. His uniform was perfectly maintained but lacked any special insignia or medals. While most humans on board had fought hard to prove themselves worthy of notice, Alan seemed content to blend into the background. "Communications Officer Gray, please update the translation matrix for the Zorak delegation," said Commander Zael KT, the eight-limbed captain of the Luminous. The commander barely glanced at Alan as he gave the order. "Right away, sir," Alan replied. With a slight nod, the massive Varaxian captain returned to the heated discussion. The topic, as it had been for weeks now, was what to do about the human problem. Earth had joined the Alliance only 5 years ago, and many species considered this a mistake. Alan moved to the central console and began working on the translation system. His fingers moved quickly and precisely over the controls. No one paid him any attention. This was exactly as he preferred it. 3 other humans were present in the room. Ambassador Samantha Kelly stood tall and proud, her voice rising above others as she defended humanity's place in the Alliance. Security Officer Jack Bennett loomed near the door, his muscular frame and combat implants making other species nervous. Science Advisor Linda Peterson presented data with sharp gestures and complex terminology. All eyes tracked these 3 humans. All conversation focused on their words and actions. No one watched Alan in his corner. As he adjusted the translation settings, Alan accessed the secure communication channels. A small modification, nothing that would trigger alarms, allowed him to save a copy of all transmissions. The security protocols recognized his access as routine maintenance. "The humans cannot be trusted with full Alliance membership," argued the draconian representative, her scaled skin reflecting the room's lights. "Their history is filled with violence and conquest. They advanced from primitive technology to space travel in a mere 3 centuries. Such rapid advancement is unnatural and dangerous. We have complied with all Alliance regulations," Samantha countered, her voice firm but diplomatic. "Earth has reduced its military forces by 30% and opened all research facilities to Alliance inspectors." Alan kept his expression neutral as the argument continued. His heart rate remained steady. His breathing never changed. Years of training had given him perfect control over his physiological responses. When the meeting ended 3 hours later, Commander Zael KT approached Ambassador Kelly. "Your passion for your species is admirable, Ambassador, but the Council grows weary of human demands." "Not demands, Commander. Rights guaranteed by the Alliance Charter," Samantha replied with a tight smile. Alan gathered his equipment and moved toward the exit. As he passed the central table, he overheard the Meldorian representative whispering to his aide. "The final preparations are complete. The fleet will reach Earth's orbit in 14 standard days." Alan's step never faltered. His expression never changed, but the information was now locked in his perfect memory. In his small quarters that evening, Alan pretended to read technical manuals on his datapad. In reality, he was sending encrypted messages through a communication system hidden inside his standard-issue equipment. The messages traveled through commercial data streams, disguised as entertainment packages and supply requisitions. The recipients were humans like him, unremarkable, efficient, overlooked. They worked as maintenance technicians, administrative assistants, food service workers, and other positions deemed non-threatening by the Alliance species. Alan's message was simple. 14 days. Each recipient understood what to do next. None would communicate directly with Alan again. The network operated on pre-arranged protocols established years before any of them joined the Alliance service. Alan prepared for sleep at exactly the same time he did every night. The ship's monitoring systems noted no anomalies in his routine. Next morning, Alan reported to his station in the communications center. 6 alien technicians worked alongside him, managing the vast network of information flowing through the flagship. None spoke to him beyond basic operational requirements. "Gray, check the subspace relay in Sector 4, his supervisor ordered, without looking up from her station. "It's showing a 2% decrease in efficiency." "Yes, ma'am," Alan replied, and moved to the maintenance console. While diagnosing the relay issue, Alan gained access to the ship's long-range sensor data. The Draconian battle fleet had indeed changed course. 17 warships now moved toward Earth, their official flight plan listing a training exercise in a nearby uninhabited system. 3 decks below, engineer Frank Nelson accidentally spilled coffee on his uniform while chatting with his alien co-workers. "Clumsy humans," laughed the Andarian engineer good-naturedly. "How did your species ever manage to build spaceships?" "Pure luck," Frank replied with a self-deprecating smile. His alien colleagues enjoyed his humor and found his occasional clumsiness endearing. None noticed when he installed a small device inside the power regulation system during routine maintenance. Across the ship in the medical bay, Nurse Carol Jensen dropped a tray of instruments. As she apologized profusely and cleaned up the mess, she placed a data chip inside the main diagnostic computer. In the galley, Cook Bill Martinez told jokes that made the alien staff groan at his terrible pronunciation of their languages. While preparing special dietary meals for the Jorak delegation, he added a compound to their food that would cause them mild digestive discomfort. Nothing serious, but enough to keep them distracted during critical moments in the coming days. None of these humans knew each other's specific tasks. They only knew their part in the larger plan. That evening, Alan sat alone in the ship's observation lounge, watching the stars. Most crew members avoided the lounge during this shift, preferring the livelier entertainment options elsewhere on the ship. Ambassador Kelly entered and sat across from him. They did not acknowledge each other directly. Anyone monitoring the security feeds would see 2 humans who happened to occupy the same space. After exactly 7 minutes, Samantha stood and left a data pad on the table as she departed. Alan continued staring at the stars for another 12 minutes before picking up the pad, which appeared identical to his own. In his quarters, Alan reviewed the information. Detailed scans of the Draconian fleet, analysis of their weapons capabilities, defensive weaknesses. The quiet, overlooked humans had been busy indeed. Alan sent one more encrypted message before erasing all evidence of his activities. Accelerate the timeline. 10 days. As he settled into bed, his face showed no emotion, no excitement, no fear, just the same neutral expression he always wore. The Alliance had studied human warriors, human diplomats, human scientists. They monitored the loud, the strong, the brilliant members of humanity. They should have watched the quiet ones instead. 8 days remained before the Draconian fleet would reach Earth. On the Luminous, Alan Gray sat at his communications station, monitoring transmissions with the same calm efficiency he showed every day. His console beeped softly, indicating an incoming priority message from the Alliance Council. Communications traffic increasing by 30%, Alan reported to his supervisor. The Council is calling an emergency session regarding the Draconian fleet movements. The Jorak communications director fluttered her wing membranes in annoyance. Humans always overreact to military exercises. Filter the diplomatic channels. To priority routing only. Yes, ma'am, Alan replied, his face showing no reaction to the dismissive comment. As he adjusted the communication protocols, Alan sent a tiny data packet hidden within routine system maintenance signals. The packet contained the exact coordinates and security codes for the Draconian fleet. This information would reach a small repair station near Jupiter, where 3 humans operated a refueling depot that serviced Alliance ships. On the repair station, technician Steve Harris received the data while checking atmospheric levels in the main hangar. His expression remained neutral as he continued his work. During his lunch break, he made a slight adjustment to the navigation beacon that would guide the Draconian ships through the outer solar system. Back on the Luminous, Ambassador Samantha Kelly prepared for the emergency council meeting. Her assistant, a young human named Karen Wright, organized data files and prepared talking points. Ambassador, I've included the latest economic reports from Earth, Karen said, placing a data pad on the desk. The agricultural production numbers might help counter their arguments about human resource consumption. Good thinking, Karen, Samantha replied, skimming the information. What the ambassador didn't know was that Karen had embedded a specialized program within the economic data. When connected to the Council's main system, this program would create a shadow copy of all Council communications, accessible only through a hidden channel Karen had established months ago. The Council meeting began at 1400 hours ship time. All 17 species sent representatives, with the Draconian delegation appearing particularly smug. This training exercise is perfectly within our rights as a founding member of the Alliance, the Draconian ambassador insisted, her scaled tail twitching with barely contained excitement. The fact that it occurs near Earth space is coincidental. From her position at the back of the human delegation, Karen observed the room carefully. The Meldorians and Andarians were avoiding eye contact with the human representatives. The Zorak delegation appeared uncomfortable, several members shifting in their seats and touching their abdomens. Bill's special dietary addition was working, as planned. Samantha argued passionately for the fleet to change course, citing Alliance regulations about notification of military movements near member worlds. Her performance was convincing, drawing attention from everyone in the room. No one noticed Karen slip a data chip into the central conference table's input port when she leaned forward to adjust the ambassador's water glass. On the engineering deck, Frank Nelson whistled a cheerful tune as he worked on power conduit maintenance. His alien colleagues had grown used to his human habit of making music while working. "How can you be so happy with this political tension?" asked the chief engineer, a tall Andarian with 4 arms. "Your world might face a serious diplomatic crisis." Frank shrugged. "I'm just a maintenance worker. Politics is for the important people upstairs." The Andarian made a clicking sound of agreement. Humans like Frank were why the Alliance had accepted Earth in the first place. Simple workers who could handle the dangerous or tedious jobs that other species preferred to avoid. While replacing a power coupling, Frank installed a small device that would allow remote access to the ship's energy distribution system. The modification would not appear on any diagnostic scan. It simply looked like a standard human repair technique. The Alliance had long ago stopped questioning why humans sometimes used unconventional methods, as long as the results were satisfactory. The medical bay. Nurse Carol Jensen administered routine vaccinations to crew members. The Luminous was scheduled to visit 3 different planetary systems in the coming months, each requiring specific immunological preparations. "This might cause mild discomfort," she warned a Varaxian security officer, as she pressed the injector against his upper limb. The officer flinched slightly but made no complaint. What no one realized was that Carol had modified the vaccination records in the medical database. In the event of an emergency, the system would show that certain key personnel had received the required medications when they actually had not. These individuals would be quarantined according to strict Alliance medical protocols, removing them from duty at a critical moment. As the day shift ended, Alan made his way to the ship's recreation area. A group of aliens and humans gathered around gaming tables, enjoying their off-duty hours. Alan chose a seat near the back wall and began a solitary game of chess on his datapad. Security Officer Jack Bennett entered the room with several of his team members. Loud and boisterous, they immediately attracted attention with their competitive banter. "I bet I can beat any 3 of you at strength tests," Jack challenged the alien security personnel. His friendly rivalry with the non-human crew had become legendary on the ship. While all eyes were on Jack and his impromptu contest, Alan quietly accessed the recreation room's network terminal. The security cameras in this section would experience a routine maintenance cycle during the next shift change, creating a small window of opportunity for Carol to access the captain's private medical records without being observed. Later that night, Alan returned to his quarters and reviewed the day's progress. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The scattered, seemingly unconnected humans aboard the Luminous and throughout the Alliance were performing their tasks perfectly. None knew the full scope of the operation. None needed to. Alan's datapad showed a message disguised as a personal letter from a fictional relative. Weather patterns changing ahead of schedule. Storm expected in 7 days. The Draconian fleet had increased speed. They would reach Earth in a week, not 8 days as originally planned. Alan sent the coded response. "Bringing umbrella. Will prepare for rain." Then he deleted all evidence of the communication and prepared for sleep. His routine never varied. His vital signs remained constant. The ship's monitoring systems registered nothing unusual about the quiet human communications officer. In his mind, Alan reviewed the complicated network of plans, contingencies, and fail-safes that he had helped create over the past 3 years. The Alliance believed they understood humans based on their observation of the obvious ones: the strong, the loud, the visibly intelligent. They had cataloged human aggression, human emotion, human ambition, but they had failed to recognize the most dangerous human trait of all: patience. 7 days until the storm would break. 7 days until the overlooked humans would reveal just how dangerous they truly were. 5 days remained before the Draconian fleet would reach Earth. Tension grew on the Luminous as reports came in about Earth's military preparations. The planet had begun mobilizing its defense forces, citing scheduled exercises as the reason. Alan Gray stood at his communication station, routing messages between increasingly agitated Alliance officials. His face showed no emotion as he processed urgent demands from the Council for Earth to stand down its military. "The humans are overreacting again," muttered the Zorak communications director. "Their paranoia will destabilize the entire sector." Alan nodded in agreement. "Humans can be quite emotional, ma'am." The irony of his statement was lost on his supervisor, who failed to notice that the one human under her direct command showed no emotion whatsoever. Ambassador Samantha Kelly spent the day in heated negotiations, demanding explanations for the Draconian fleet movements. Her forceful presence dominated every meeting, drawing all attention to her passionate defense of Earth's concerns. In the shadows behind her, Assistant Karen Wright took careful notes and occasionally provided data to support the ambassador's arguments. No one paid attention to Karen's quiet efficiency or the way her fingers occasionally tapped specific patterns on her datapad, patterns that sent coded instructions to human operatives throughout the ship. In the medical bay, Nurse Carol Jensen responded to an emergency call from the Meldorian diplomat's quarters. The diplomat was experiencing severe digestive distress, another result of Bill Martinez's special dietary additions. "This is the 3rd case today," Carol reported to the chief medical officer. "Perhaps we should check the food preparation protocols." "Yes, please coordinate with the galley staff," the doctor agreed, hurrying off to treat another patient. Carol used this official authorization to access the galley's systems. While apparently investigating the source of the digestive problems, she uploaded a program that would allow Bill to alter the nutritional content of meals served to specific crew members. Nothing harmful, but enough to cause mild discomfort and distraction when needed. On the engineering deck, Frank Nelson responded to a power fluctuation in the weapons control systems. The fluctuation was minor, not enough to trigger serious alarms, but sufficient to require maintenance. "These human-designed components always need adjustment," complained the Andarian chief engineer. "Your species builds things to break." Frank laughed good-naturedly. "Keeping engineers employed since the Industrial Revolution," he joked as he opened the access panel. The Andarian left him to complete the simple repair job, not realizing that Frank was installing a critical modification to the weapons targeting system. The change would not prevent the weapons from firing, but would reduce their accuracy by a small, almost undetectable percentage, just enough to matter in a combat situation. In his quarters that evening, Alan received an update from the human repair station near Jupiter. The message was hidden in what appeared to be a sports update from Earth. Local team adjusted playing field. Visitors may find conditions challenging. Steve Harris and his team had successfully modified the navigation beacons. When the Draconian fleet entered the solar system, they would encounter subtle gravitational mapping errors that would slow their approach. Alan sent acknowledgments to various human operatives through a series of apparently routine communications, maintenance protocols. Each message contained simple instructions: proceed, be ready, wait for signal, None of the messages were suspicious on their own. None contained explicit information about sabotage or resistance. If intercepted, they would appear to be standard operational communications. The humans on board the Luminous continued their duties with the same efficiency they always showed. None met in groups. None discussed their plans openly. Each knew only their part of the larger operation, a cell structure that ensured the full scope of their activities remained hidden. 4 days before the Draconian fleet's arrival, Commander ZLKT called a meeting of all senior staff. Alan attended as the communications representative, taking his usual position in the corner of the room. The Council has decided to take precautionary measures in light of Earth's military posturing, the commander announced. The Luminous will join the Draconian fleet as they approach Earth space. Our presence will show the Alliance's unity in this matter. The alien officers nodded in agreement. The human officers present, Security Chief Jack Bennett and Science Advisor Linda Peterson, exchanged concerned glances. Commander, this action might escalate tensions rather than reduce them, Linda suggested carefully. Your concerns are noted, Advisor Peterson, but the decision has been made, Commander ZHLKT replied firmly. We depart in 6 hours. Prepare your departments accordingly. As the meeting dispersed, Jack approached Alan at the communications console. Gray, make sure Earth receives word of our movement. Official channels. Yes, sir, Alan replied with appropriate deference to the higher-ranking officer. What Jack didn't know was that Alan would send 2 messages, the official notification through Alliance channels, and a second, hidden message containing the Luminous's exact departure time, course, and shield frequencies. On Earth, in a nondescript office building in Portland, Oregon, Olivia Martinez received Alan's transmission. Her team of programmers had been working for months on what appeared to be entertainment software for the Alliance market. In reality, they had created sophisticated jamming algorithms specifically designed to interfere with draconian sensor technology. They're moving earlier than expected, Olivia told her team. Upload the final package to the communications satellites. Within an hour, every human communications device within the solar system received a seemingly routine software update. The update contained dormant code that would activate only when the proper signal was received. Back on the Luminous, preparations for departure were underway. Alan worked diligently at his station, coordinating communication protocols for the journey to Earth. His supervisor praised his efficiency, never noticing the small adjustments he made to the subspace frequencies, adjustments that would make the ship's communications vulnerable to very specific types of interference. In the galley, Bill Martinez prepared special meals for the command staff, their favorites, with his personal touch that they had come to appreciate. The mild sedative compound he added would not affect their performance noticeably, just dull their reactions slightly when quick decisions were needed. Nurse Carol Jensen organized medical supplies for the journey, ensuring that the inventory records showed everything in order while actually creating strategic shortages of certain critical medications. Engineer Frank Nelson completed final checks on the propulsion systems, signing off on their readiness for the journey. His small modifications would not prevent the ship from reaching Earth, but would reduce their maneuverability in combat conditions. As the Luminous prepared to depart, Alan sent one final message to the human network. Weather front approaching ahead of schedule. Prepare for early storm. Throughout the Alliance, the overlooked humans, the quiet ones, the friendly ones, the efficient ones that no one really noticed, acknowledged the message and made their final preparations. The Alliance had been watching, the wrong humans all along. They had focused on the loud, the strong, the obvious ones. They had never understood that on a planet where humans evolved as both predator and prey, the most dangerous hunter was never the one who announced its presence. It was the one you never saw coming. The Luminous traveled through space toward Earth, its massive engines pushing it faster than any human-built ship could go. Commander ZLKT stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak by on the main viewer. Time to rendezvous with the Draconian fleet? He asked. 26 hours, Commander, replied the navigation officer. Alan Gray sat at his communications station, monitoring transmissions between the Luminous and the approaching Draconian vessels. His console showed a message from the fleet commander. Pleased to have Luminous support. United Front will show humans their proper place. Alan forwarded the message to Commander Zage LKT, his face revealing nothing of his thoughts as he added a copy to his hidden database. Every communication, every plan the Alliance made against Earth was being recorded and analyzed. 2 decks below, Frank Nelson worked double shifts to optimize the propulsion systems. The chief engineer had come to rely on Frank's willingness to take on extra work. Your species has remarkable endurance, the Andarian commented as Frank crawled into a tight maintenance shaft. Just trying to be useful, Frank replied with a friendly smile. Inside the shaft, he installed a small device that would create power fluctuations at specific frequencies that would interfere with the ship's weapons systems but appear to be normal energy variations during high-demand operations. In the medical bay, Carol Jensen prepared emergency protocols for the upcoming mission. The chief medical officer had given her this responsibility after noting her exceptional organizational skills. We should run a level 1 diagnostic on the emergency transporters, Carol suggested, just to be certain they're functioning properly. Good thinking, Nurse Jensen, the doctor agreed. The diagnostic Carol ran included a subtle modification to the transporter's targeting systems. In a genuine emergency, the crew would still be transported to safety, but with a 3-second delay, enough time for other systems to be compromised in a crisis situation. In the galley, Bill Martinez prepared meals for the command staff with his usual flair. The officers had come to look forward to his special dishes, never suspecting that the mild digestive discomfort some experienced afterward was intentional rather than the result of alien digestive systems struggling with human cuisine. Bill, these flavor combinations are fascinating, commented the Meldorian cultural officer. How do you decide which elements to combine? Family secrets, Bill replied with a wink. My grandmother would haunt me if I revealed her techniques. The aliens laughed, finding Bill's references to human superstitions amusing. They failed to notice that the special seasoning he added to the command staff's meal contained compounds that would slow reaction time by milliseconds, not enough to be noticeable, but enough to matter in a crisis. On the bridge, Security Chief Jack Bennett conducted drills with his team, preparing for possible confrontations when they reached Earth. Jack was a large, intimidating human with numerous combat implants and modifications. The Alliance officers respected his capabilities while remaining wary of his aggressive nature. Earth's military will back down when they see our combined fleet, Jack told his team confidently. Humans understand shows of force. What Jack didn't understand was that he too was being used, his obvious strength and aggressive stance keeping Alliance attention focused on him rather than on the quiet humans working in the background. In her diplomatic office, Ambassador Samantha Kelly drafted formal protests against the Alliance actions, with Karen Wright assisting her. These accusations are outrageous, Samantha declared loudly as a Varaxian diplomatic officer delivered the Council's latest statement. Earth has never violated Alliance protocols. While the Varaxian engaged in heated debate with Samantha, Karen quietly copied the diplomatic codes from the officer's unsecured datapad, codes that would allow human operatives to access secure Alliance channels when needed. 16 hours before the Luminous would rendezvous with the Draconian fleet, Alan received an encrypted message hidden within routine status updates from Earth. Weather systems in place, awaiting storm. Olivia Martinez and her team in Portland had completed their preparations. Every communications satellite, navigation beacon, and automated defense platform in the solar system now contained dormant programs ready to activate on command. Alan sent acknowledgments to his network of operatives aboard the Luminous. Final system checks. Prepare for turbulence. Commander HLKT called a senior staff meeting to discuss final plans before the rendezvous. Alan attended as the communications representative, taking his usual position against the back wall. The Draconian fleet will establish orbit around Earth, the commander explained. The Luminous will serve as the command center for Alliance representatives. Once in position, we will inform Earth of their new probationary status. What does probationary status mean exactly, Commander? Asked Science Advisor Linda Peterson. Earth's defensive capabilities will be limited. Alliance observers will monitor all human military activities. Space travel will require approval from the Council. The commander's 8 limbs moved in a pattern that indicated satisfaction. These measures are for everyone's safety, including humans themselves. The alien officers nodded in agreement. Jack Bennett remained expressionless, playing his role as the loyal Alliance officer despite his human origins. Linda Peterson showed appropriate concern but offered no significant objections. Alan simply listened, recording every word in his perfect memory. When the meeting ended, Alan returned to the communications center and initiated what appeared to be routine maintenance on the long-range sensors. The maintenance protocols included a small program that would create a brief communications blackout when activated, just long enough for other systems to be compromised without immediate detection. 8 hours before rendezvous, the luminous Y detected unusual energy readings from the direction of Jupiter. Analysis? Commander ZLKT demanded. Appears to be a power surge at the human repair station, reported the science officer. Possibly an equipment malfunction. What the Alliance crew didn't realize was that Steve Harris and his team had activated their modified navigation beacons, which were now broadcasting subtle gravitational distortions that would affect the Draconian fleet's approach vector. Alan sent a message to Earth disguised as routine status updates. Atmospheric conditions changing, storm accelerating. On Earth, government officials made public announcements about increased solar activity, requiring special communications protocols, the cover story for the activation of Olivia Martinez's programs throughout the solar system. 4 hours before rendezvous, the Draconian fleet reported navigation difficulties. Their course corrections were requiring more power than expected, delaying their arrival at the rendezvous point. Commander ZLKT ordered the Luminous to continue on course. We will meet the fleet at Earth if necessary. As the Luminous approached the outer boundary of Earth's solar system, Alan initiated his final preparations. Every overlooked human on board received their activation codes, hidden within standard pre-arrival announcements. Frank Nelson completed his work on the engineering systems and returned to his quarters to rest before his next shift. Carol Jensen finished her modifications to the medical emergency protocols. Bill Martinez prepared the final meals the command staff would enjoy before reaching Earth. Karen Wright organized the diplomatic documents that would be presented when the ship arrived. None of these humans communicated directly with each other. None revealed any sign of coordination or planning. Each simply performed their assigned tasks with the quiet efficiency that had made them invisible to the Alliance's scrutiny. 1 hour before the Luminous would enter Earth's solar system, Alan Gray sent the final message to his network. Storm has arrived. Throughout the Alliance, on countless ships and stations and planetary outposts, the overlooked humans received the signal and prepared for action. The trap was set. The hunters were in position. The Alliance was about to discover why the most dangerous human was always the one they had overlooked. The Luminous entered Earth's solar system with all systems functioning at optimal capacity. On the bridge, Commander ZLKT received reports from each department. Weapon systems ready, reported the tactical officer. Shields at full strength, added the operations manager. Communications clear on all channels, Alan Gray confirmed from his station, his voice as calm and professional as always. The main viewer showed the blue-green planet ahead, surrounded by orbital platforms and small defense vessels. The Draconian fleet had finally corrected their navigation issues and were approaching from the opposite direction, their formation tight and intimidating. Open a channel to Earth's government, Commander ZLKT ordered. Alan complied, his fingers moving efficiently across his console. Channel open, sir. Earth government, this is Commander ZLKT of the Galactic Alliance. The Council has determined that your planet requires closer supervision. You will power down your defense systems and prepare to receive Alliance representatives who will oversee your transition to probationary status. The response from Earth was immediate. This is Defense Minister Clark. We reject these demands and consider this an act of aggression against a sovereign Alliance member. Withdraw your forces immediately. Commander HLKT fluttered his wing membranes in annoyance. Humans are always so difficult. Tactical, prepare to disable their primary defense platforms. Let's show them the futility of resistance. As the Luminous moved into attack position, Alan Gray sent a single command hidden within routine communications traffic. Execute. Throughout the ship, the overlooked humans activated their preparations. In engineering, the power systems suddenly fluctuated. The chief engineer looked at his displays in confusion. Power drops in weapon systems compensating. But every adjustment he made was countered by Frank Nelson's hidden programs, which rerouted power in ways that seemed logical, but ultimately prevented the weapons from reaching full capacity. On the medical deck, emergency alarms activated unexpectedly. Possible radiation leak in Section 14, announced the computer. The chief medical officer rushed to organize response teams, not realizing that Carol Jensen had triggered the false alarm to draw key personnel away from their stations at the critical moment. In the command staff dining area, several officers suddenly experienced stomach cramps and dizziness. Bill Martinez watched with apparent concern as they were escorted to medical, further depleting the ship's leadership during the crisis. On the bridge, the navigation officer reported, "Sir, the Earth vessels are taking up defensive positions. They cannot possibly stand against our combined fleet," Commander Gelkt said confidently. "Prepare to fire warning shots across their defensive perimeter." The tactical officer pressed the fire control, but nothing happened. "Weapons are not responding, Commander." Throughout the ship, systems began to fail in seemingly unrelated ways. Communications became garbled. Power fluctuated. Life support showed unexplained variations. "What is happening?" demanded Commander Gelkt. No one noticed Alan Gray sending a continuous stream of data to Earth, providing real-time updates on the ship's increasingly chaotic situation. The Draconian fleet, now in position around Earth, suddenly reported similar difficulties. Their ships began drifting out of formation as navigation systems failed. Weapons would not activate. Communications between vessels broke down. On Earth, Olivia Martinez and her team activated their hidden programs. Every satellite, every defense platform, every communications relay in the solar system began broadcasting signals that interfered with Alliance technology in subtle, devastating ways. At the Jupiter repair station, Steve Harris initiated the final phase of his operation. The modified navigation beacons now broadcast signals that caused Alliance ships to misidentify each other as potential threats. The Draconian commander's voice broke through the static on the Luminous's communication system. "Under attack. Earth. Vessels are..." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Restore communications," ordered Commander Gelkt. Alan worked at his console with apparent urgency. "Attempting to compensate for interference, sir." What the commander didn't know was that Alan was actually increasing the interference while making it appear to be coming from external sources. The main viewer flickered and then showed a startling image. Earth's supposedly limited defense fleet had tripled in size. Vessels previously hidden by sensor-blocking technology now revealed themselves, surrounding the Alliance ships in a tight formation. "Impossible," whispered the science officer. "Our intelligence indicated they had no such capabilities." A new voice came through the communication system. "This is Admiral Scott of Earth Defense Forces. Your ships are now surrounded and your systems compromised. Stand down immediately." Commander ZLKT turned to Security Chief Jack Bennett. "Is this some human trick? How could they hide such a fleet?" Jack looked genuinely shocked. I don't know, Commander. This wasn't in any briefing I received." For the first time since joining the Luminous crew, Alan Gray allowed himself a small smile. Jack wasn't lying. The obvious, visible humans like him had been kept in the dark just as much as the aliens. Earth's defense minister spoke again. "Commander Gelkt, we are transmitting data to your ship now. You'll find evidence that the Alliance Council has been violating its own charter in its treatment of Earth." Alan's console beeped as the data transfer began. He routed it to the main viewer, where diplomatic communications, secret council meetings, and classified military plans began to play, all the information that Karen Wright had been secretly gathering from the council's systems. This is a violation of Alliance security protocols, the Jorak communications director protested. No, Alan said, speaking up for the first time without being directly addressed. This is evidence of the Council's planned violation of Earth's sovereign rights as an Alliance member. All eyes turned to Alan in surprise. No one had expected the quiet communications officer to speak out. You? Commander Julk's eye stalk swiveled toward Alan. What have you done? Nothing dramatic, Commander. I simply watched, and remembered, and shared what I learned with others who were also watching. Throughout the ship, the other overlooked. Humans stepped forward. Frank in engineering, Carol in medical, Bill in the galley, Karen in the diplomatic section, dozens of others in various departments, the quiet ones, the efficient ones, the ones who had been dismissed as harmless. On the main viewer, Admiral Scott continued, the Alliance has two options. You can recognize Earth as a full and equal member with all rights and protections, or we can demonstrate just how thoroughly we've compromised your systems across the entire Alliance. In the command center on Earth, Olivia Martinez monitored signals from thousands of human operatives planted throughout Alliance territory, on ships, on stations, on 17 different worlds, all waiting for the order to activate their own preparations. Commander Jelkt stared at the growing evidence of the Council's planned betrayal, then at the quiet humans who had infiltrated his ship so completely. How? He asked simply. Alan stepped forward from his station. You watched our soldiers and our politicians. You studied our weapons and our obvious strengths. But humans didn't become the dominant species on a dangerous world by being the strongest or the most aggressive. Alan gestured to the other humans who had revealed themselves. None were physically imposing. None held high rank. All had been overlooked. We survived because we cooperate, because we plan, because we understand that the most effective hunter is never the one that announces its presence. The commander's limbs moved in a gesture of resignation. It seems we have much to learn about humans after all. Yes, Alan agreed. Starting with this lesson, the most dangerous human is always the one overlooked. Within hours, the Alliance Council convened. An emergency session. The planned subjugation of Earth was abandoned. New negotiations began, with humanity recognized as equals rather than probationary members. And throughout Alliance space, the quiet, overlooked humans returned to their duties, watchful and patient, the most effective guardians Earth could have ever deployed. The aliens never made the same mistake again. They learned to watch the quiet ones,